Evening all, welcome back to Kicking, flipping heck, Total Dust, and today we're going to have a bit of a chat about the game. I've got a stinking cold, it's why I've not done too many videos as of late. Yeah, I caught a cold in London. Who would have thunk it? Walking around the tube is like, I'm just grateful I didn't get Ebola, so there we go. Anyway, hell of a match. Hell of a match. I know I always say that, but the thing is, I'm not going to show you like the match where I go 1 and 2 or like 0 and 2 or no one would, because that's boring, isn't it? I'm quite happy to show you matches where I get owned, but anyway, to the topic. I don't know if you watch my other videos, but I was actually at the Elite launch thing. Elite Dangerous launched. Well, it's actually not out until the 16th of December, I think, but we went to the launch party in Duxford, which is actually about 10 minutes away from my house. So, you know, straight to Google Maps, see if you can figure out where I live. You won't, so don't bother, but it's where they filmed Top Gear, so it was quite interesting to see it. But I have a story for you, because basically we were there incognito. As in, I was wearing a false moustache and a comedy beard, which was my own, but it looked comedy. So, and it was just one of these kind of things where we just went there to enjoy the day. Trob and I went. And it was actually really interesting because it just made me appreciate how good CCP are at things like FanFest, because this event was kind of rubbish. It was, I don't want to be that guy, but it just was, it was a lot of money for the regular tickets. It was a lot of hype, and it was kind of no talky. I think it's because FanFest maybe spoils us, because CCP really do lay open their business and say, let us talk to you about what we do. So they talk to you about security and server design and game design, and they talk to you about what their plans are for the game. They didn't do any of this at Frontier Elite Dangerous. So it really did make me realise, actually, CCP are pretty good. In fact, they're brilliant. Their fan fests are just amazing. So big GG to CCP, because I think Frontier, because it was their first one, maybe that's why it was a bit rubbish. But people just sat around and didn't really do anything, and there's nobody talking. There was like a few, you could go and play Elite, but we're not really there to play Elite, if that makes sense. It just didn't really inspire me. But interestingly enough, I actually met up with a fellow YouTuber there who is a lot bigger than I am, and I'm not going to say who they are because they'll probably hate me, but it was interesting having a little chat with them about you know, because I've followed them for a while, and then obviously to see them was awesome. So I just kind of had a bit of a drink, a bit of a chat. And they were like, oh, yeah, I love your Elite stuff, but you play the other game, what is it, Dirt, something. And I was just smiling and thinking, God, I hate you. I'm kidding. But it was like, you know, I said, no, it's Dust. And we had a little bit of a conversation about Dust. And it was interesting seeing, I guess you could call this person a professional YouTuber. He won't mind me saying that, but I guess that's just the difference between a jobbing amateur like myself and versus someone who actually maybe does it for their job. Because we talked about the commercials of it all, which is fascinating. I'm not going to share too much more than that. Basically, the opinion of it was, why are you doing Dust? If you did what you did for Dust for other games, you'd be doing quite well. And I think it was an interesting kind of thing, because obviously, you know, we kind of, on the car journey back, because I was drinking, so Trouble very kindly picked me up, and we were talking about it, and it was like, we pulled into this drive-in McDonald's, Yes, we have drive-thrus in England, and no, they're not thatched. And we went to the drive-thru, and bugger me, bloody Jason Bradbury was sat inside with his kids eating chicken nuggets. And I've never seen somebody sit there with so much swagger in their soul. But it was just so bizarre to see Jason Bradbury, who you probably just Google him. He's a big gadget kind of guy, journalist, presenter, gadget kind of guy. I've always quite liked his stuff. And he did early game stuff, and he's kind of famous for being, I guess, a gamer who is kind of, I guess, very instrumental in publicising games. So obviously he was at the Elite event as well, and I think I bumped into him, maybe once or twice, but I didn't recognise him. So it was really funny to see him in McDonald's eating chicken nuggets. So there we go. But we were talking about kind of the commercials of YouTube and why people do it and that. And it's funny because a lot of people do YouTube just for fun, just to enjoy it. And Dust is a great example of this, because people who do videos for Dust, you're never going to be somebody who earns your money and pays your bills on videos for Dust, because there's just not enough people watching it. You've got to do games where there's millions of people watching you. But that led us to an interesting thing, because it's like, well, why are we doing it? And the reality is that we don't do, I've said this many times, we don't use YouTube for the money. We do this just for the fun of the whole thing. And it was fascinating kind of looking at the mechanics of it, because I think we really do play what we enjoy. I don't want to say too much more than that, because we had a few discussions with other people about, people being paid to play games. And that whole piece at the moment seems to be really rife within YouTube, where you can't really trust the reviews you're getting. So I'd be very careful of anybody saying anything is good if they're receiving money for it. So just bear that in mind, because I think a lot of the time there's a huge amount of, I guess, corruption going on, where people will sort of, be told to, say something's good. I saw something on Call of Duty Advanced Warfare where if you're a partner with Machinima, as many of our friends are, they were sort of telling us that they're not allowed to show or highlight any of the bugs, because if they do, they'll get a copyright strike. I mean, that's really, you get 3 copyright strikes, your channel's deleted. So that's really quite horrible. And I think that's kind of why we're not really into all that. So it was it really was an affirmation, a reaffirmation of why we play games like Dust. It is because we have fun. And I think that has to be primarily why you do these things. Look at the amount of effort we put into these flipping videos now, almost all. Because, it's all because it's a hobby, it's a bit of fun. And I think it was an interesting sort of discussion. Anyway, I thought I'd share that with you, because we haven't really talked about that on any of the Elite stuff yet. And I don't want to name names, because it was just a very, I think, honest discussion that I think rarely happens with people who do YouTube videos. That it is, people do it for money, and people do it to make their revenue. And it was interesting seeing how there is kind of a gaggle of people, I think, now flocking to Elite, because they're realizing it's going to be very popular. And I think it was interesting seeing the kind of approach that's being taken, is there is almost a desperation to monetize everything. And I think that's kind of sad. I really do. I find that very disappointing. Gaming is our hobby, and I think, it must be yours as well. So why would you sort of why would you make your life difficult to the point where you're not going to enjoy your hobby just to make a few quid from it? But anyway, there we go. Let's talk some Dust. We've talked well too much already about the bollocks of commercialization. I think Dust at the moment is feeling good. I haven't played a great deal of it though lately. I really wanted to get stuck in with the officer event, but I've been ill and I've been working like a crazy man, so I've just not really had time to do it. I'm looking forward to playing some tonight though, because I really did hope I could amass a stockpile of those twin-shot 12-bore plasma cannons, but sadly I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be one of those weeks. I think you just have to basically accept it. But I think Dust is feeling very good at the moment. There is such a great feeling around it. I think there's still a few challenges with the game, but nothing major. I mean, what people seem to be sort of moaning about at the moment is heavies. Heavies seem to be the kind of go-to point when you get beaten. And I don't mean to troll, but you notice this when you kind of beat somebody, like in an assault suit or a scout suit. Their go-to position when they can't beat you back is to actually get in a heavy. Because then a heavy machine gun with a heavy suit, with all those hit points, with all of that damage they do, it kind of becomes the, I guess, the go-to point. I really would love to see some work done on heavies, not to nerf them, but just to change their role. So, you know, you can't fire and move would be an awesome model. You move very slowly or something like that. That would give the scouts a massive advantage against them. But otherwise, you know, a good heavy is always going to kill a good scout, regardless, unless you've got remote explosives. But even then, it's still kind of 50-50. So post in the comments, tell me what you think. I honestly think that the heavy needs a little bit of work, because it just feels that on maps like this, it is the go-to point. You'll just spam that suit. And I know that the problem is if you take people out of heavies, it will just mean that something else is then spammed, a brick tank Logi or some nonsense like that. But I think you need to do it, because at the moment it does feel like there is this kind of massive prevalence to just go with what's the easy fit or what's the guaranteed win fit. And I think there's very few people who actually play the game with a definitive role, a definitive gun, and have a bit of fun with it. And, I think that's a shame, because there are some people out there who are incredibly good with a particular suit and a particular gun, and they don't change to different suits to beat you. They don't get in heavies. And I think they're the players who you probably do need to be very aware of or very careful of. But I think heavies at the moment are just a bit too crazy. Apex suits seem to be getting a bit of love lately. They seem to be very popular. I've noticed we've got another load of them coming out. So, it's very difficult to criticise them, because the value of them to CCP is quite high, because they obviously give revenue to CCP. And, I don't understand why people are so negative to the fact that they are a games company that want to make money. That's kind of their point. And it's like, Clash of Clans is a great example here, because if you love that game so much, you can invest and get a bit of advantage. I don't think you get a massive advantage, and I think the same is true in this, because those Apex suits, they're not great, but they're obviously eternal, and I think that has a benefit to it. So I kind of like the idea of Apex suits. I don't see the negative or downside to them. I just see them as, I guess, very comfortable, good suits. So I quite like them, and they look pretty snazzy as well. So I think generally you can't really kind of have a bit of a pop at them, because they do, anything that gives money to the game is kind of important. It was funny, because one of the things I noticed from the Frontier night was everything was about money. Everything that you went there, the merchandise store to the bar to everything, was about making them money. Now, again, it's difficult to kind of be negative to that, but obviously you can go too far. You can be very aware that you're being ripped off. You can be very aware that you're kind of being, I guess, commercially manipulated, if that makes any sense. But it does. I did get that impression quite a lot from that event, and I think I'm getting it a bit from CCP at the moment. But again, I personally don't feel it's too much. I feel it's kind of what they probably should have done from the start. They should have just done this from the get-go, because they would have had a lot more money, they'd have had a lot more revenue, they'd have had a lot more, I think, regular input coming in. Now, the potential is that the game is maybe coming towards the kind of twilight period. That's putting it nicely, and I think maybe they're cashing in for the next 6 months, and then eventually it'll go. So I do have to give a bit of a personal health warning with this, that you could end up buying a lot of gear that doesn't transfer. I'm sure, 100% sure, that you will be recompensed somehow. Okay, because CCP, they're not daft. I know a lot of people like to really flame them, but they're not stupid, and they understand that if they just turn around and say, right, Legion's coming, you get your name, enjoy, that would cause a riot, and a nerd riot at that, with lots of wheezing and the smell of Cheetos and Cheeto dust flying in the air, but it would still cause drama, and I think CCP probably want to avoid that. So I think no matter what you do, if you put money in now, it's probably going to come back eventually, and I think it could be with your rank, it could be with some form of one-off payment, I don't know, but I just think be slightly aware that you could be buying something that won't be there in a year. It could be there in 6 months, it could be there in 3 months, but any more than a year, I just don't think you will. But there we go. Hope you enjoyed that. I think, to be honest, your best bet is just to keep playing the game and having fun. And I think if you can do that, then good on you. Hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.